Adam's here.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm very sorry.
Waldera here.
Becker here.
Nutter here.
Sorgi here.
Right.
Who is that?
Buzz.
Oh, gosh.
And then Lori's here, right?
No, I could hardly
Lori's
hear
on the
it.
phone, right?
She just said yes.
Okay, so we're ready to rock and roll. I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
Hi.
Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes from December 6th? Are there any questions, corrections?
Can I
Sure.
Adi moved to, that was the adoption agenda, right?
Correct.
Yep. And I
who did the second?
seconded.
Okay, thank you.
Dave's taking minutes.
So,
Dave's taking
I'm
minutes, by the
taking
way.
some notes on motions and stuff.
Right.
With regard to the current, the previous meeting minutes, they have my name listed as Barb Waldera.
Oh.
When did you change it?
It's been a long time. Otherwise, I
Where
didn't
is
see
it?
any. Under roll call of committee members.
It's got Barb instead of Dawn.
Not what I've got.
I think it got changed in between when they got sent out. We
Well,
caught
the one that
it.
was, the one that was that was on the agenda, posted on the website. Yeah, I don't, it says no.
Okay.
We'll make sure we get it.
Well,
We'll
yeah,
check all the
we'll check it.
sources, because I think
see
we
your
caught,
ID.
we got it caught late.
Just checking, but it does say Dawn.
Someone's gonna be.
Okay, so any other issues with the minutes? All right, I would entertain a motion to approve them. Did you want to say something, Dave?
Nope.
Okay. Okay, second.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
It doesn't make sense to have public comment if people can't call in.
Well, I think they can, but I don't know for sure, but I guess it was showing, Gene called that public number and it was showing up there. So I'm not sure yeah, it may
Okay.
be, that may be the case, so.
Okay, well, we'll give it a couple minutes and see. Anybody in the room have a public comment?
I've got one.
Okay.
I'd like
Bob?
to have a moment of silence in regards to a past committee member that passed away, Rob Reckwine. He was on this committee,
So was his dad.
yeah.
That's a Rob.
Rob, yep. Rob and Roger.
Of Arcadia for a while.
How do you spell Rob's last name?
I have no idea.
W-I-E-N.
Yep, yeah.
He was very young too.
44. It was very sad. He died just months after his father.
Oh, the whole family. He's a fellow mayor. Bodyguard. I know there's a lot of sadness in Arcadia for sure.
Yep. Maybe this is Jean calling on I hear my phone doing something. Jean, she's tried all numbers and your cell and she can't get through. So I'll call her and see if we can get her on my phone. Hi, Jean. I'll put you on speaker. Can you hear?
Thanks. Sorry, I've tried every number and done stuff, and I just can't. For some reason, I can't get through.
Okay, well, we have you loud and clear on my phone.
Fabulous. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I will end public comment and move on to number 7, Parks and Environmental Specialist update. Might that be you?
That's me. Thank you. Okay, just a few things I'd like to go over here. First of all, we have a new floor in the cloth shelter. It does have the grit down on it, so it's, limits the ability for people to slip when it's humid or gets wet on there. I don't know if anybody remembers, in the kitchen area, there was a little lip around the perimeter that was about 2 inches taller than the floor, and it was definitely a trip hazard. So we had them remove the floor in the middle and then pour a new slab, and now it's perfectly level and flat. So it looks great, and that trip hazard's no longer there, which is always a good thing to have. Yep, and I'm also thinking next year to maybe put some of that sealant down, or the kind of the grit over the new area where it was slippery during the 50th anniversary.
Oh, yeah.
Just another option to, just kind of limit that situation from happening.
Didn't we have a donation for that floor to pay for that?
That's correct. Waldera is donated to that. hmm Right off of County Q there.
It's Barb Wild. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's the Waldera farm there, right off of County Q, near the strawberries. They're just outside of town here, so they had donated some money for improvements to the buildings. So
That'll be good. And when she gets sweaty, then Florida gets
yeah.
kind of snotty.
So hopefully we can avoid a situation in there going forward. So as far as the heat in the class shelter at the park, that the company that was approved to put it in never got to it prior to the ground freezing and everything, so that'll be a first thing in the spring. And they'd have to bury a line, running from the tank and whatnot into there, so that's why that won't happen. But it's still on the list for them to do, and we're moving along with that. So the electric company that was going to move that won the bid to move the pedestals out of the Trempealeau lots didn't get to that either prior to the ground freezing up, so that'll be first thing in the spring to move those up to Petrick Park. Have yet to ask for quotes and look around for somebody to install those. I'm thinking maybe we put them though in, there's a handful of non-electric sites in between sites 26 and 33 that I think we could install them right there, and so increase our number of electric sites. So that's the plan on that, and that's the status of that that situation down there in the village of Trempealeau. Now, do we want to look at the map right now, or is that going to be more for number 11? Because I know there was a request last meeting to take a look at where exactly those maps are, or those sites are, and I could
Leave that for number 11.
We'll leave for number 11. Okay. Another thing, as of real recently, obviously, is the new camp spot, or new online reservation system. We're going through Camp Spot. We had the Ashley for the Arts reservations, which always historically has taken place on New Year's, so December 31st at midnight, or January 1st at 12 a.m., however you want to say it. It went relatively smoothly. We have all of our sites booked. We have more nights than we've ever had there before. Everything went pretty good. There was one little minor glitch that, we're going to be working with Camp Spot just to kind of see exactly what happened there, but everything, it went down good and we're reserved, ready to go. So the best part about that is going to be that I'm going to be more available to do more of my other tasks over the next 6 weeks rather than calling people back for the next 6 weeks. So
That's really good.
that'll be nice.
I had a question through the chair. I know I got an email back from someone that had a hard time getting on. I don't know
Okay.
if that was what you were referring to. They said, because I don't know if there's an email, maybe just forwarded to all the Parks Committee. So I just called her back and she was able to get on, but through the Camp Spot, she said she had to try for almost a day. So I don't know if that is the glitch you're talking about. And I said if she had any further troubles because the courthouse was closed, to call you or email
That'd be
you.
great. Yep. Just have her call me. Yep.
Reed and I talked on, I guess Whitman's, sorry. Reed and I talked on Sunday morning because we had seen some posts about people having some difficulties. But I think it was by 10 o'clock, all the sites were gone. So if somebody was trying for a day, I don't know.
So, go ahead.
At this point, it'll show everything being unavailable because it's full
Yeah.
Oh, for sure now.
right now. Yeah.
And then the other thing is we just talked about this morning, I mean, one of the, we probably need to take a hard look at doing away with the, New Year's Eve tradition thing, because, if there are glitches that pop up, and it's not during business hours, we can't deal with it. So,
I guess that's what my question was. Can you tell me more about the New Year's Eve thing? Is it a promotion, a special?
Sure,
It's just
that-
tradition.
It originally started from my understanding that, okay, so the county, I know at least the Department of Land Management from years past likes to only have the transactions or reservations, everything go down in the current year. So what we started having happen is Ashley started growing, or Ashley for the Arts started growing, and people started calling earlier and earlier in the year. And eventually it just got pushed up to midnight, and then it kind of became this, it's
Tradition.
just tradition of how people did it, and they really enjoyed it. When I did surveys of everybody coming in last year, like, do you want us to move it or keep it at that? And 80-90% of them said, keep it at midnight, we love doing it. Well, like Dave just suggested, though, I'm thinking going forward would probably be better to have us, during the staff time, have the reservation, maybe like on this Tuesday, the first workday after the new year, at noon or something like
And it
that.
also ties into camp spots availability to provide support.
You
So-
bet. Yep. So thank goodness, it did go relatively smooth, so I didn't have to contact Camp Spot or try to get a hold of support, which I wouldn't have been able to anyways on a holiday, New Year's Day.
Well, and this year was weird because you had Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday off, so.
Yeah. Right. So that's how, to answer your question, how it kind of got, people just kept calling earlier and earlier once it became this huge thing that everybody wanted to go to.
Is it still an issue if people make reservations in so for 2024, could they make a reservation in 2023 for that?
They cannot, no. Even for any site, though. Like, the whole campground is open now for reservations for this year.
Has to be within the calendar.
Within the calendar year. Apparently, it's an audit situation, I've been told, that it's easier for audit to do transactions in the current year.
Yeah, because they pay, right, in this year.
Yeah, especially now that it's online, everything,
Right.
all the money just is in now, so.
Well, I think, if you get too far out too, then you're gonna run into somebody saying, well, can I reserve it for 3 years ahead?
Right.
Sure. I mean, you'd run into somebody say, I want Ashley at the Arts for the next 5
And the
years.
dates are somewhat predictable, but you never
But you
know.
know,
They
people with
could,
money,
they could move the
they're not-
dates.
Well, I've had people
that
offer
would
to
make
pay
it hard
double.
for-
They paid double to reserve it for the following year.
Yeah.
People have offered that, so.
And I think that's how it is with state and national park reservations too. You have to do it in the calendar year.
And I think,
No, not for the parks, not for the parks. We reserve down at Jackson County. Jackson County can reserve campsites the 1st of November for the next year.
Okay.
If you're out of Jackson County, you can't reserve them until December 1st, 7 o'clock in the morning. And let me tell you, it gets just as crazy as that one.
Yep,
Because
I'm
we-
sure.
I think,
we try to
Lori-
do it, our family, and we got 2 people on computers, 2 on phones, and trying to get in there is, and they're gone like right now.
Same
So
thing, mhm.
But it is, that's how it is for Jackson County at
Okay.
least.
Lori, did you want to say something?
I do. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah?
Okay, good. So one of the things that we can look at for the future is that dynamic pricing.
Could you put Lori's input near a mic? I can't. Maybe that's
Reed, put her
impossible
near a
to hear.
microphone.
It automatically goes up. So, depending on what percent you put in the rules,
Thanks.
so you can get that all squared away. So you can actually get more money per site, depending on demand, and that's something that you can just put into the rules.
Good to know, yeah, we'll definitely take a look at that, Lori, going forward, for sure.
Yeah, I mean,
apologize, I didn't catch that.
that's one area where you can probably generate up to $80,000 more a year, depending on the number of sites that you have with that dynamic pricing. So it's probably something that you want to take a look at. I would say about 60% of the private campgrounds have gone to that. And so it's a new trend that is really taking on some teeth right now.
Here, I can try and explain. So, in general, dynamic pricing, whether you're selling campground spots or tickets, for a sporting event or concert, what they'll do is the price will fluctuate depending on the demand. So, if things are in high demand, the system will automatically set the price higher. If demand is soft, it'll do it lower. And we have the ability with CampSpot to be able to do that. So, for a special event like this, I think we already have higher rates for this anyways, for this event. But what we could do, and I don't, in something where it's going to book up in 7 hours, we'd have to look at how would that work. But otherwise, we could put dynamic pricing across the board on all of our camp spots, camping sites for the whole year. And if a particular weekend non-Ashley weekend started to fill up real quick, the last people in might be paying, a higher amount or, whatever. So that's just, and it is a good way to generate some additional revenue. We're new to this, we're gonna have to figure it out. The other thing I was gonna add is there's been some questions about like a cancellation list online. Some people posted about that. I don't think that's what we're gonna do. I think as cancellations come in, if they come in, we'll just post it to the Parks and Rec Facebook page, and hopefully people are following that, because that's gonna be your opportunity to jump in. If you see that there's been a cancellation, jump in and try to reserve that spot. Versus us doing it manually and trying to call people back and spend all that time.
What is the canceling policy? If they cancel a week ahead of time, do you give them the money back, half the money, or what is the policy?
As of right now, we don't have an exact date set right now, but we were going to be putting that out there again on the Facebook page and on the website. We were thinking, I get a lot of people I shouldn't say a lot, but it always happens every year that things come up for people, and then, they cancel, 3 weeks out. Obviously, we're not going to be, we're not going to refund that. But we're thinking maybe if by like April 1st or something, and I know we threw around dates like that, maybe if they cancel before that, we'll easily fill these sites. So we haven't come up with an exact date yet on that.
Is there a general policy that speaks to cancellations for the park, not related to the special event for Ashley?
It is. It's generally 2 weeks out.
And so we'll refund if the cancellation is
Prior to 2 weeks.
at least 2 weeks in advance?
Correct.
And we're handling this different just because of the sheer volume for Ashley?
Yes.
Because isn't one of the issues, if they cancel within 2 weeks, a lot of the Ashley visitors have found something else, right?
That is correct. It's in years past, actually almost every year I have sites that kind of go unoccupied because people cancel and I go through the waiting list and everybody else has made plans. So I think we're going to push that. We're going to make we'll have the date set, maybe prior to, we'll maybe say that at the next PTED, but we'll have a date where if you cancel past a certain time, you're not going to get a refund. Mm-hmm. Just because we don't want to risk that, even though I feel like they'll, I still feel like you'll get the sites booked prior to, let's say, June, but when we start getting closer to the event, people have their plans made already, so.
Yeah, for sure. So if I go onto the website and I make a reservation, it'll give me that cancellation policy, what our existing cancellation
That's
policy
correct.
is then?
Yes.
Correct? Okay.
Yep.
I don't think Reed mentioned it, maybe he did, but what we did do is, for the arts reservations, we did require a 3-night reservation, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, just because otherwise, if people were just saying, oh, I just want to reserve Friday, we might have had it would have been a mess. Because you could have had some nights that it was full and other nights that it wasn't. People say, if I can't get in all 3 nights, I'm not going to come. So this way it was like preference really was given, obviously.
Right.
It was required, and it worked.
And it worked really well. And a lot of times, like as of right now, actually for the arts has still only announced the Friday and Saturday headliner. So what's happened in the past a lot is people have done 2 nights. They see that what the Thursday night music is, then it's kind of yay or nay, should we come a night early? And they know that we wouldn't reserve it to anybody else prior to that, just because of the pure hassle and just everybody around and everything, so.
Any other questions regarding that? Do you have more?
I do.
Okay.
Obviously, we're full swing snowmobile. So entries are coming in into Snares, which those are the clubs. For anybody that doesn't know, those are the clubs that they do trail maintenance and grooming. The grooming is automatically sent via satellite to the program that is contracted out by the DNR called Snares, which is snowmobile. Yeah, exactly. Yep. I don't think anybody even knows exactly what it stands for, but everybody knows what it is.
We all know what Snares is.
Yep. And then they have to manually enter in the trail maintenance entries, and then I go back through and make sure all the numbers add up and everything, and then approve that. So those are coming in quite a bit. Obviously, updating the trails system, as the clubs say, how their trail conditions are, whatnot, and so that's happening there. And then I will be starting shortly. I'll be starting on a couple of grant applications for some new snowmobile trail projects coming up, and those are due April 15th. So have some time on those, but nice to get going on them sooner than later. Other than that, looking into or I shouldn't say new, but updated signage at the park now with the new reservation system. Obviously, things need to be changed come spring. So for some of the more informational signage, I'm just going to be going through the highway department. It's kind of exists what's there right now, right when you kind of pull in. And as far as like a more informative type signage for trail systems and whatnot, that's obviously going to be a different company there. So to kind of match our image that we have there right now with our nice kiosks and informational signs. So working on that, and yeah, moving ahead with, the construction of the rec pond. I shouldn't say the construction, but the planning and engineering phases of that. Working with a couple of consulting firms, a couple of lake and pond recreational companies there, so just more or less gathering information at this point. And then that'll obviously be going to bid processes and approval from you guys on various projects and, individual parts of that project. So
That's exciting.
it is. So we have about 2 years to break ground. Be nice if it happened before that, or before 2 years from now, but
Yeah, it'd be nice if it happened this summer.
we will see, yep. And been working with Ashley for what's going to happen for parking if something does start. So it's kind of up in the air right now, the timing of things with committee approvals and bid processes and all that. But we're still planning on just for this year, probably just having it in that main area where the public can come in and park for the shuttle buses. So that's kind of a fluent thing that's, as the implementation of the master plan progresses, that may or may not change where we're maybe moving people around, and thinking of maybe getting in touch with the neighbors to the south there, just to the Shank family, because if we do by chance break ground prior to the festival, which I don't see happening, we'll have to come up with some alternative there. So any questions on any of that?
I just have a quick question. Is it our responsibility to come up with alternative parking for Ashley, or we're just, because we're kind?
Probably not,
helpful?
but I'd like to maintain the good relationship we
Right,
have working with
right,
Ashley,
right.
and I understand that we're just more or less signing off on the agreement. They can drive through county or the park property to get to that neighboring land, which they still have control with the way the agreement lays out until we break ground. It's still between them and the
Right.
previous landowners, but
But they're aware of our plan.
they are aware, yes.
Okay.
Actually, the two folks that I'm dealing with at Ashley, they came to several of the public input
Okay, good.
meetings and everything, so I'm keeping them up to date on everything as well.
Okay, yeah, that's right. I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Would you mind explaining to me what the recreational what the plan is for that pond? I know it's a pond, and I'm sure it'll be for fishing, but are there other plans for using that for anything else?
Well, there's a lot of different options you can do. You could do skating in the wintertime. We'd like to have, another building put up there at some point nearby, whether and then shade structures, potentially, a place where people could have maybe a four-season heated building, but maybe not. I guess, as of right now, we have to just start some sort of development on that property, because that's just in the agreement with the sale or the donation. But for now, it's just going to be a rec pond that we want to just get started with.
For swimming.
Swimming, kids to play in.
Primarily a swimming.
Primarily swimming, actually.
Okay,
Yeah.
that was, and has there been, maybe, I don't know, I know a lot of places have paddle boats or whatever. I don't know how big
Paddle
this
boards.
is.
That was all part of the, in the master plan discussion, was to have opportunities for kayaks, paddle boards, canoes, and to kind of look into that eventually.
How big are we talking this is going to be?
We're in the design phase right now, so.
So it hasn't been determined?
It hasn't yet to be
Correct.
determined. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So hopefully maybe more information at the next meeting.
Thank you.
Plus, or go ahead, Bob.
Big acreage we have there.
Yes, the donation is about 6.2 acres. Like the whole land that was donated, so
And in the agreement, was there a specification as to how much of that needed to be?
it was pretty open-ended, just they wanted to see some sort of development within 3 years of the transaction, or of the switch of the sale, or the land.
And we closed last year in December of 2021, so we're 1 year into that 3 years.
Thank you.
And I see the pond as a very valuable programming, for the youth, for, scouts, that type of deal, with just paddling and that, and,
Yeah, no, that's very exciting.
yeah,
I'm
even
very
basic
excited.
swimming and whatnot, so.
Have you seen our big design plan?
I've seen the design plan, but I do not know where we're at with implementation of it.
We're in the baby steps. Well, we're
Right.
maybe a little bit more than baby steps, but maybe?
We're starting to
Right.
accumulate data for decision-making. Numbers, sizes of things, that kind of deal, so. Any other questions for this agenda item?
I know with that parks plan, it's gonna cost a lot of money, and I know donations would help cover that too. Because when I looked at the original price tag, when I was an incoming board member, and then when I actually saw the price, I might have hung up.
I think you lost her.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Yeah, I did, yeah. But when I saw when I was an incoming board member and saw the review plans at the One Center, and when I actually came here, when I saw the original price, I almost needed a chair. But hopefully, a lot of private donations will help cover some of that.
Right, and I know that price tag that you saw was encompassing the entire master plan, so I feel like we can,
Incrementally.
exactly, we can start with the pond and.
We have a pretty good reserve account for,
We do, for getting started.
for getting started on the rec pond, so. Of
Yeah,
course,
That first price I think we had was with everything. That's with all the bells
The
and
entire
whistles.
master plan,
Yeah.
right.
which is maybe a lifetime of work to,
Yeah.
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 So,
But we have a pretty good reserve account, so depending on the specifics of the rec pond, there's a legit possibility we might be able to cover it with our reserve funds.
And there's also always that ARPA money sitting out there, 1.1 million, I think, is left. So. Anything else?
if I'm finished, unless anybody has any other questions.
Nope. Good job. Great.
One thing for Reed, if the county highway department's got some ground up blacktop, they ground up a bunch of it and they got it stockpiled there. So that makes, if you have any spot out there that washes or something, that, you put that in there, roll it down, she sticks almost like blacktop. So
Okay,
They
great.
don't always have it, but they have it.
But they have it now.
They ground it up late this fall, and they hauled it over there, so just
Okay.
something to keep in mind.
Would that work for like a new blacktop situation or not really? Or is that more of a repair?
That would be like, if you got a piece of gravel that
Yeah.
washes out or something like that.
Got it.
That stuff kind of sets more in place.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Kind of
Something to think about.
sticky,
Yeah.
It's got a little bit of the oil, yeah.
a little better than gravel.
Yep.
Okay, because, one other thing I could mention, I haven't worked on anything on it yet, but I was going to contact the highway department here in the spring as we're getting closer to, the warmer time of year. Putting in a new, the handicap access. So basically from the gravel, a new strip of blacktop to the sidewalk that we have right there at the class shelter.
It's a little sketchy to
It
get
is.
there on a
Mhm.
wheelchair.
And so then it-
Or even if you're like using crutches or something.
right.
It's kind of very uneven ground to
Right,
walk on.
so that's in the plans as well, but I have not moved on that at all yet, so.
Okay, thank you. Economic development and tourism update.
Well,
you're recovering good.
I am, yes, I am happy to be back in person after being off for medical procedure in December on my foot. I did take the rest of that week off as sick time and then worked remotely the following week as I slowly am getting my feet back under me. Anyways, so December, not quite as busy for me as some other months, but nonetheless, still some important things that I worked on. So it was basically trying to close out getting our tourism partnerships established for 2023, meaning, who we're going to advertise with, what visitors guides, so we've got partnerships for this year with Visit Eau Claire, Explore La Crosse, and Visit Winona. We're also going to go on the Great River Road Visitors Guide. And so that was, pretty busy with that, developing the work plan, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. And then tentatively, I had lined up for this weekend a winter photo shoot with the same guy who did our fall stuff. But I took a look this morning and decided to put that off for a week or two because with the snow, with the snow disappearing here,
pretty.
snowmobile trails aren't open and stuff like that. So I think and that's fine. When I signed the contract with them and everything, we had kind of left that date a little flexible. But we're hoping, I'll obviously hope to get it done in, sometime in January, early February. But he did a really good job on the fall photography that we had done. We've used that with some of the new imagery already and some ads that we're placing. Other than that, December was really kind of a good learning month, working with Reed on snowmobile trail stuff, in terms of, how do we get that information out? We've been sharing it on the Parks and Rec page, but we've also been sharing it on the Travel Wisconsin, winter sports, snow report conditions stuff. So Reed and I are both up to speed on how to do that now. We can both do that. I've been sharing the information on snowmobile trail updates on the parks or on the Trempealeau County Tourism Facebook page. And I just to give you an idea of the reach on our Facebook page here. Can you scroll down a little bit, Reed?
Operate it?
Yeah. Sure. Well, yeah, I'm not.
I don't know
Well,
what you want to do on it.
nah, we'll just. Anyway, so this is our Trempealeau County Tourism Facebook page. As an aside, I will say I did watch the committee meeting from last month. I understand you were having some problems with finding that. Huh?
On it now.
That's good. That's good.
There's 3 pages and 2 of them are,
For
not
parks.
ours.
For parks.
Yeah.
Tourism. Yeah, tourism
Tourism
is
has its own
easier to
thing.
find. The Parks and Rec is a little,
sketchy.
But it is true, if you haven't gone out and searched for Trempealeau anything, initially you're going to have a bunch of stuff. If you just type in Trempealeau, it's going to show a bunch, like probably 20 pages, some of which are county pages, some of which are private pages, whatever. But the way Facebook works is once you've searched and found Trempealeau County Tourism, it's probably going to come up top when you put it in again. But anyways, yeah. So this is our Trempealeau County Facebook page. One of the things we tried differently with the, snowmobile things, and I was just playing around with this, but I think this actually worked out pretty well, is, we had the information in, plain text format, but I also created sort of this template, for putting it up with, quick little graphic, because, sometimes people like the graphic format more than, just plain text. And it's interesting because, we posted it both ways, but this format seemed to get shared a lot more.
It's very pretty.
Yeah, it seemed to
Eye-catching.
get shared a lot more. But just to give you an idea, we've got like 2,793 followers on our Facebook page right now. And the snowmobile trail condition reports, we're getting like 7,000 and 8,000 people for a reach. In other words, that means that people saw it in their feed, and we were getting like upwards of 500-600 people that did something with it, like clicked it open. So that tells me that there's a lot of interest out there. And again, this just playing around with it a little bit, finding out that this format worked a little bit. As we got a little further into it, I kind of tweaked the format a little bit so you can see green is open, red is closed, and stuff like that. So that's just been a good learning experience. Some of the reach on this has been better than some of the things that we had River Travel Media doing for us last year. Not that they were bad, it's just some of the stuff that we've done ourselves has gotten some really good reach.
Yeah,
So we
that's
just need to be
nice.
creative and, maybe even a little quirky coming into 2023. So if you go on sometime in 2023 here to the tourism Facebook page and you see something kind of like, whoa, don't be surprised.
No, I really like that. In fact, that's what our trees look like a couple weeks
Yeah,
ago.
I was gonna say that was pretty.
It's too bad the photographer wasn't out on those bright blue sunny days when the trees were just heavy with
Yeah,
snow.
we couldn't turn it around that
Yeah,
quick.
I know.
And
Oh,
plus,
God, it was so
I wouldn't have been
gorgeous.
able to go out and accompany him with my foot. So, Bob, do you have a question?
Yeah, is there a way we could hook in like local weather with that? Have a link so that, if they want, say it's Tuesday, right? They want to come snowmobiling this weekend, if you tie it in with local weather, they can hit that and, okay, all of a sudden, you're not dealing with a snowstorm or.
Yeah.
Or
You could probably-
rain weather or
Yeah,
something like
Like
that.
link to the Weather Channel or something?
Yeah,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
even whatever WHTL uses or something.
Sure, we can
Just
take-
something local weather.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can take a look at that. Yeah, I'd just be a little concerned with linking to a commercial site, but,
Or
yeah,
even
we'll
if you,
look at it.
or
National
even if
Weather
you use the
Service.
National Weather
Yeah,
Service.
that's probably what I
NOAA,
would
yeah.
do. I'd just probably put a link out to National Weather Service La Crosse office. So, yeah, good suggestion.
Or you could check with that Channel 20 that they have on a cable.
Okay.
That's,
It's a county.
it's county, but it comes out of, I think, La Crosse or.
Yeah, I know which one you're
towards
talking
Madison.
about.
But it shows, like
gives-
exactly what Robbie's talking about,
Yeah.
that you'd be able to get it, and just another idea, but.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, that's a
it's
good
weather
idea.
all over all over the area. Jean, did you have something to say? Yes? Go ahead.
Is the contract that you have with the photographer, is there room for flexibility of him or her or them going and doing a few photos on their own, and then the two of you deciding what you want besides you going with them?
Yeah, of course. We haven't put together any kind of an itinerary yet, Jeannie. So if you've got some suggestions, that would be good. We worked together on it. I was with him, Ben Jones, from 8 a.m. to like 8 p.m. when we had the fall photo shoot, but that's because I had it laid out in like a bunch of places that I wanted to get, and I think that was the most efficient way to do it. So I'm not quite sure what you're getting at, but yes, we have flexibility. He could do stuff on his own. The thing is, he's coming up from Madison, so it's we're going to pay him for one day, so it's whatever we can get in one day. So I don't necessarily have to be with him the whole time or anything, but we do have to kind of have it laid out, what we want to get done and maximize that daily fee.
And it's probably helpful to have you or somebody with him
Right.
that knows the county and knows.
Right, exactly.
Because I know he wasn't able to get up to the northern part, which I hope.
Yeah, well, we're gonna try and focus on that. I mean, it all balances out.
Right.
When we have a full library of pictures developed, by like this fall, by September, with all the seasons, we'll have balance across the county.
Okay. Did that answer your question, Jean?
Well, I was just like, when he's traveling up this way and all of a sudden he's like, wow, that's really cool on the Arcadia Hill, takes the picture and just pulls his car over and does it. That's what I was thinking, just him or them and their creativity. I mean, I understand the itinerary, but just thinking outside the box as well.
Well, yeah, and we did do some. I mean, we traveled in separate cars, and there were a couple of times where, he kind of signaled me like, I want to pull over and, get something. And in fact, like the Arcadia Hill, that's exactly, we spent probably a half hour up there, because we were doing fall and, we got some drone photography, as well as some still photography up there. You know, and again, you haven't seen all the pictures. Maybe in February, I'll, pick out some more of the photography, to kind of just give an idea of what we did get into inventory with that photo shoot. But again, he's coming up from Madison, so, the easiest way to meet and go with him was we just met in Galesville and then kind of started the loop from there.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. So unless there's any other questions on the activity report, maybe we can just move into work plan?
Yep, you're number 9 too, so.
Yep.
Go for it.
Yep, and I did that back to back to give Reed a break.
Thanks, Dave.
You bet. So you all got copies of the work plan that I put together for 2023. And so you probably had a chance to look at it. If we just run through it real quick, and then if there's any questions as we go along, go ahead. I'll kind of stop after each section. And I'll say right up front, it's kind of ambitious, and we don't necessarily have any dates attached to any of these things. This is not prioritized. I think that, it's a work plan should be a guide, but it shouldn't be like a ball and chain that keeps you from doing other things as they come along. So in that spirit, these are the kinds of things that, I've already done some work on, but I want to do more work on, and I think will point us in a better strategic direction going forward. So I did break it down into economic development and tourism. Economic development's on the first page, tourism's on the second page. There will be some cases where you'll see that tourism and economic development kind of intersect. So first thing is business retention, expansion, and recruitment, BRE. That's a discipline within economic development that I've talked somewhat about. For you, Dawn, being a new member, business retention, expansion, recruitment really is just a systematic plan of getting out to meet with businesses that are here, talk about how they're doing, are there any opportunities for expansion, or things that, maybe they need some help with just to be able to stay in a community. So it's, we did last month you heard that we did quite a few of these kinds of visits. They were more of the introductory type visits, and that's what I put in the first bullet here is we'll continue those. But really, what we're talking about, skipping down to that third bullet, is executing some more extensive BRE visits with larger employers and businesses that could be impacted by the external economic forces. Like we all know right now we're sort of teetering on recession, might be in one, depends on which economist you talk to, supply chain issues. Those are all kinds of things that could be impacting businesses. I know they're impacting businesses within Trempealeau County. So what we do with those visits, whether they're sort of the brief get-to-know-you visits or these more extensive BRE visits, is we use that to identify common areas of technical assistance that might help, or to identify and develop resources that might meet their needs. So, we don't have our own revolving loan fund program within Trempealeau County, but there's money through Mississippi River Regional Planning Commission. So, and there's money available through Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation, WEDC, to assist with that stuff. So that's really what it's about, is working with those businesses to try to link them with resources and just identify potential red flags early on in the process. So any questions on that section? So that kind of flows right into the next thing, which is increase access to grant and loan funds for Trempealeau County businesses. And top of that list, and again, this is not something I'm expecting. It would be wonderful if it happened, but I'm not expecting we're going to get this all locked down in a year. But I really think that we need to develop a locally controlled grant/revolving loan fund to assist new and expanding businesses. And really, I think, the two ways that we move towards making that happen is I am planning on pulling together a meeting of local lenders, just, to put this out there and identify it as a priority and request their assistance in trying to help capitalize a fund. Because I'm a realist, I don't think that, as tight as county financial situation is, that if I came to you and said, hey, you got a $250,000 that we could use to capitalize a loan fund, that you're going to be able to say yes. But there are some monies available out there for matching funds, specifically like through Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation, where if we were able to come up with $250,000, whether it was county money or whether it was local lenders helping capitalize, that we could get a match on that. So that's just the way I'm thinking on that. And then there's other, besides WEDC, there's USDA, U.S. Department of Ag, Economic Development Administration, federal agency, that have some funding, matching fund opportunities. So, and that should say to develop a local RLF. Sorry about that. I gotta make that correction. Any questions on grant or loan stuff? So then the next one is to strengthen ties with local governments, towns, cities, village, and Trempealeau County. Obviously, as I reported last month, I did manage to get out to all city councils and village boards now, met with the towns, collectively through one of their quarterly meetings. I'd like to try to get out and try working through just getting out to some of the individual town board meetings in 2023, but, there's quite a few of those, and that's going to take a little bit of time to get through those. So the first bullet there is really working, where appropriate and where there's an interest to develop some local economic development committees. And specifically in Arcadia, they have one, but they would like me to start attending those meetings regularly. OSSEO is working to sort of reconfigure how they do economic development, because they got like 2 or 3 groups doing it right now, and they'd like to try to form sort of a unified group. Blair has got a good economic development sort of committee, business development group. And there's been some interest in doing this in Galesville. So wherever those municipalities would like to form an economic development committee, I stand ready to help them with that. I think that's a good way, to tackle that outside of a council meeting or a village board meeting where you might have a full agenda. And then, as Adi can attest, because when I visited Independence, it's the same pitch I've given every city, village, town, is, our goal is to provide economic development staff support to those communities. So it's basically pick up the phone or email me. It's like I'm your staff in those cities, villages. That's what I'm here for, to help. And then provide, the final goal here is to provide one basic and one intermediate economic development training to local units of government. So we did do that Economic Development 101 in October in Arcadia. I would see us replicating that, but probably a locally produced content for that next time. I don't think we need to, we probably don't need to bring in an outside vendor to do that again. They were good, and the price was reasonable, $1,000, but I think we can replicate that on our own, and then develop one intermediate economic development training that either we do or that we have somebody come in and do.
That was really good, by the way.
Yeah.
I've told you probably, but, and I mean, it generated a lot of conversation, and
Yep.
a lot of people had a lot of great ideas. So I think you're right about using local people to do it, because there were.
Yeah, if we're going to do an intermediate session, that's one that I might consider, getting an outside vendor to do, if they could provide the kind of training that I think would be appropriate. And that's something I think, we're going to probably need to ask. And that intermediate training may be geared more towards those communities that do have, some economic development committee type structures in place. But then the basic one will just be something like we had, I think a little bit more streamlined. I think they, in all fairness, they got off on some tangents that,
It was fun, though. I mean, it
was fun.
generated a lot of
and
conversation.
it should be fun. Yeah. Yep.
If you're going to have Econ 101, it needs to be fun.
Yeah. We don't want to punish you by come do a training. And then kind of flowing right out of that is to start building some relationships with the local chambers and business development groups. I've been to some of the chambers, specifically, OSSEO Chamber and Whitehall Chamber and Galesville Chamber, but, I haven't I still haven't managed to connect. I mean, I've connected with Arcadia, but scheduling has been a little bit difficult. So, but it's just continuing to work on that. And then to assist with formation of chamber-type groups where they don't exist. And then I think, this is really key to me, and there's been some interest expressed by the chambers, is to work to develop some cooperation between chambers on some more county-wide issues. Which would include, doing tourism promotion. So you'll see that maybe later. Next bullet is to develop and execute a comprehensive study of housing needs in Trempealeau County. This is one where it's on the list. It's a big thing to bite off, and it might come down to like, how do we fund it? But really, the work's going to be to try to identify an entity that can perform the housing study, because this is not something we can do in-house. Mississippi River Regional Planning Commission might be an option, but I still think it's kind of beyond their resources to be able to do something like this. So that's something.
Dairyland does a lot of work with housing and looking. I mean, that's somebody you might want to partner more with.
Yeah, I'm spending, now that we're into 2023 and we've gotten 22 closed out. I'm really going to try to start hitting this in earnest, because there's some I think it's Sheboygan County recently did a countywide housing study. Sauk County did too. So I'm familiar with who they've used, and really it's now at this point it's to try to reach out to some potential vendors and say, look, this is what we're interested in doing. Can you give, maybe put together an RFI, request for information on how they would approach a housing study, what it might cost, so that we could then, use that to maybe develop an RFP process to solicit interest and then see where we end up.
What are the goals? Conducting the housing study is an important piece, but what are we going to do with the information?
Yeah, so that's a good question. A housing study typically, and there's different kinds of housing studies. So the kind of housing study that I'm looking at is really, sort of a study of housing stock. What kind of, how much housing do we have, single family, multifamily right now? And then what is the need? And that then identifies a housing gap, right? And so I want to look at both that current gap, or need for housing, how much more single family do we need, how much more multifamily do we need, just based on today. But then I think, we're in kind of a unique situation. Well, it's not so unique. There's a lot of vacant jobs in communities, so like within Trempealeau County, I don't think it would be an exaggeration to say there might be 1,000 plus open employment positions right now. And, I think I would love to be in a position where we could say, hey, you know what? People, living out of Trempealeau County, move to Trempealeau County. We've got jobs. We've got places for you to live, but we don't have places for people to live right now. And so even if it would be desirable for us to attract more people to live in Trempealeau County and fill some of those employment positions and experience our wonderful lifestyle, we don't have the housing for it. So the goal of that study, Dawn, would be to, identify both that current and that potential housing gap. And then we've got that kind of information that we can take to developers to say, hey, look, kind of if you build it, they will come situation is, we need 500 new units of single-family housing. We need, 1,000 new multifamily housing things. And then what you do is you work, at the same time, we're working with communities to identify where there's places to develop. So like Blair's got, 15 lots that are already fully developed, utilities are in it and stuff like that, and whatever.
Where we,
Dave.
from my point of view, where we're missing our kids are going off to college and not coming back because they don't want to live with their parents again. It's not
Right.
necessarily just single family. We don't have a place, like if I was 35 years old and wanted to come back here and work, or 25, there's no apartment, there's no
Right.
place for me to live,
I think,
except in my parent's basement, or
yeah,
whatever.
I think Buzz had a question too.
Buzz, you have something to say?
Yeah, Dave, I guess building on what Jeannie just said there a little bit was, how do you build in the quality of life assets, assessment, cultural, social, schools on a community basis to really give people an assessment of where would people want to live within the county?
Yep.
Quality of life is such a big deal now, especially with work from home opportunities. How do we begin to understand that, what our limitations are, or our assets, what we need to work on with those things to bring those folks in?
Right. And, besides just construction of, brand new single family or multifamily, type buildings, I think you also look at, are there existing buildings that could be redeveloped? And, for those of you who are familiar with Galesville, one that frequently pops up is the Phone Co. building right downtown there. It's right overlooking the creek and, the bluff there, and it would probably be a wonderful redevelopment opportunity for housing. I think that, it would go pretty quick. I've heard that the asking price for that building is pretty high. So we'll see. But anyway, it's that kind of thing. Look, are there old schools that could be redeveloped, that aren't in use anymore, that could be redeveloped into, multifamily, that kind of thing.
Madam Chair, I also agree. A lot of people like my generation and younger don't want to come back home because, like you said, the quality of life, or they know they have to temporarily with their parents. And when you get to 25 or 35, it's kind of embarrassing to have to live with your parents, to be honest.
Yeah, and an urban, it's more an urban issue, but it also applies locally, which is, the younger generation really does like what they call walkable communities. So they want to live in a place, and this is why some of the bigger cities like Madison, Chicago, and other things have some appeal for the younger generation, is because you can get a place to live and have everything be, including work and grocery stores and whatever, be in a place where you can actually walk to it versus having to drive a car. So you would think, well, okay, that's not really an issue here because whatever. But I think within our own communities, if you've got housing in a downtown area, whether it's Independence, Arcadia, Galesville, Osseo, wherever, there might be some attraction if you've got a core of businesses that can meet the needs of people in that area, that people might want to live in a downtown area versus living in a subdivision.
Or there's I think I've talked about this many times, about the study that was done at the at UWEC by the geography department of Buffalo, Trempealeau, Jackson County, and college students wanted to come back home because the number one issue for them was the environment, like Trempealeau County's biking and outdoor activities, but they have no place to live. And we see that if you look at the Ad Delight, it's like a whole page of ads. If I was a single social worker wanting to work in DHS, I have nowhere to live in Whitehall.
Yeah, it's really tough.
One of the other things that I think goes hand in hand with that is the lack of internet access in the rural areas. I know for me, where I had lived previously, I could not get reliable high-speed internet, and that was a real barrier. And now, personally, my daughter is now living in my old house, and that's great. But one of the barriers for her to be there was the lack of internet availability. So do those tie together, and how can we, perhaps in a study, somehow put that together?
Yeah, I think we can and should address that. I mean, that issue's come up between my wife and I because we have a place in Galesville right now. There's a place that I would like to, think about building a house actually right next door to Reed, and stuff. But the internet access is not great. The internet access is not great out there, according to Reed, and that's a kind of a deal breaker for my wife. So
it makes it difficult.
We have the best internet service.
Wow, you're lucky.
Even rural, though,
I'm in rural.
Are you? Great.
Our DSL and fiber optics, we had that done like 5 years ago.
So it depends on the community.
TCC is amazing, so.
TCC 's
I'm not
got-
doing an ad for TCC,
No.
but that's just who I have,
In the Alma
and,
Center area where I grew up, they're one of the first.
They
So
have
TCC's ahead of
fiber.
that.
They,
Yeah.
they started a fiber project, 8 years ago, 10 years ago. And they did it to the communities they served first.
Yep.
And now they're expanding into Arcadia, Trempealeau, more Galesville.
Yep.
But
And-
even in
but
this-
see, Blair was not part of the original, that was CenturyTel. And they didn't bring nothing in there, yeah, so there are parts of the
There are real
county-
gaps,
Yes,
yeah.
that have some big gaps, but a lot of townships too are taking some of that ARPA funds and,
Yeah.
and asking them to service their area. And there's grants out there and there's more money coming from Washington in this next year.
yeah, starting January
And
1.
make
They-
sure it goes
so
across rural area,
that-
not just Madison or Milwaukee.
Well, Madison
The
doesn't need it.
townships that do have it, townships and the cities that do have it, they should stress it more. You know, that is a huge attraction for young people, are the speeds.
So I kind of touched, so the second bullet under that housing study, besides identifying somebody who can help perform the study, it's going to be do identify a funding plan, how do we pay for it? Because again, might not be as, it won't be as big an ask as if I was going to ask you for $250,000 to help fund a local loan fund, but, it still could be that, the cost of a study is $15,000, $20,000.
You could get college students,
Yeah.
I mean, it was a huge study that,
But I think there's grants and some, other ways to fund that study. So that's the kind of thing I'll be looking at. So unless there's any other questions on housing, I want to kind of try to
Well,
keep
that's
it
a-
moving.
One more question.
Yeah.
Does extension specialists provide any assistance along those lines?
I think Extension's got some experience with doing some basic housing studies. So like I checked in with our local Extension office with Melissa Kono, and I think she showed me one that they had done. And it's, you can do some real high level, housing studies that don't get down into the, to the nitty gritty that I think is really valuable that we'd like to see. But I'm open to looking at all options and even having those discussions, I think points in the right direction of trying to get the best fit for the kind of study that I think we want.
Chair, I just have a quick question.
go for it, Jean.
Dave, will you be working with the Trempealeau Housing for the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, getting information from them to see if they have some information that would help you not only with the funding and whatever, but
Sure.
obviously we have a department for that, and also with the ARDC with the food and
Yeah.
the veterans.
Oh, yeah, I can definitely check in with Trempealeau County Housing Authority, Lori, if that's what you're referring to.
This is Jean.
Oh, I'm sorry, Gene. Yeah. Trempealeau County Housing Authority is who you'd like me to talk to, right?
Yes,
Yeah, we can certainly do that.
thank you.
And their director over there is Francis or whatever too. You can check in with her staff though. You might have some information.
Okay, so if we're done with housing study, want to move on. So this is, I labeled this agricultural recruitment retention initiative, and this is what I'm really kind of excited about. I mean, I kind of knew this coming into the job, but it's Trempealeau County. It's a rural community. We developed from a lot of farming communities and other things, and agriculture is really a rich heritage continuing in this county. And I think that we need to play to one of our strengths and one of the things that historically has put us on the map. And so, as part of this new agricultural recruitment and retention initiative, I think I would like to see us work to attract some new specialty agriculture ventures, including ag, food, and beverage. So that could be anything from a new from an artisan cheese plant to a new brewery to another winery. If people are interested in doing that, I think we need to be able to be a resource for that. And again, it's just kind of playing off the fact that we've got some, we've got St. Isidore's, Inga Orth's, cheese, creamery up in Pleasantville. We've got a number of farmers that are, direct marketing to consumers, where you can come right out to the farm and, and buy the beef that they produce there. And I really think that that's an opportunity for us to put Trempealeau County on the map too, for economic development and potentially some agricultural tourism as well, for people to come out and see, where their food came from and experience some unique products. The second bullet, though, I think is the one that I'm most excited about because, as you travel around and as you talk to farmers and you talk to people, there really is a concern about, continuity of farm operations. And what happens when, you've got a family farm and, you had kids, but nobody was interested in coming back, after college or staying on the farm, staying in the community to continue that farm. Now what do? Does the farm just cease operations? Do you have a buyer for the farm? Do you have a buyer for the farm that wants to continue operations? Or are you selling it off for, hunting land and somebody that wants a house with a lot of acres with it? And I think my goal with this would be to help, work with existing farms right now, identify where there is potentially some, continuity of operations issue looming down the road, and try to figure out some way that we can connect those people, if they want, with people that might want to come in and buy that farm and continue it as a farm. In the end, it's not about telling anybody, hey, you know what, you have to sell your farm to somebody that's going to continue to be, in the farming business. But I think just my experience has been, I think a lot of farmers, when it comes time for them to hang it up, most of them, I think, want to see somebody continue that. It really is. It's roots and it's tradition, and that's what they'd like to do. So anyway, we can work to assist that, I think, would be good. And then it's, to develop agricultural product support services where they're needed and cost effective. And I know this is kind of a vague thing, but the example that I will point out is that as I've gone out and talked to, some farmers who are doing some direct to consumer, marketing of meat and sales of meat, some of that meat's going out of county right now to process. Either because, local lockers or, whatever are, full with the business they've got right now, or they aren't in a position to do it to the specs that, the farmer, may want. So it's that kind of thing, as we get in and talk to, some of these people, see are there some opportunities to develop new businesses within the county or assist existing businesses to help better meet those needs. No pun intended, meet those needs.
When you talked about farmers, 'cause I do help out on the farm and been on and off farms my whole life. Like the people I work for, the brothers I work for, they're kind of iffy if their kids or whatever are going to take over. But I know a lot, they would like that because the farm I work for, they've been around since the 1880s. So it would be good to have, if in case their kids didn't want to take over, to have a backup plan. Would be good.
And I was talking with Buzz a little bit before Christmas. He called to ask some other questions about Mississippi River Regional Planning Commission, but then we got talking about some stuff. And I've seen some things where, and it was a little bit different situation, but it gave me an idea. So I can't remember what county it was, but I think it was in Wisconsin, where a farm was offering sort of internships to adult people that are interested in farming, kind of give them an opportunity to try it, and stuff like that. And that was, I think, on some organic farm and whatever. And it was, but it gave me the idea that hey, maybe there's people that are out there that have never, been into agriculture before, but, they're thinking it's like, hey, I'd like to maybe do a career change. And so, maybe there's a way of connecting people, that might want to, have more of a rural life and get into farming, that didn't grow up with it. And how do you connect those with people that maybe are in farming right now, where you could develop a next generation of farmers that aren't your farm children? So just the kinds of things that we're going to look at. And again, this is not something that's going to come together, fully in the next 12 months, but it's a path that I would like to start us down.
Dave, along those lines, are there some funding sources where you could begin to look at to put a comprehensive strategy together along these lines that really put some resources behind this? Because this is a big deal all across the country, and especially in the upper Midwest. And a group to look at is Practical Farmers of Iowa. They are a phenomenal success story in working along these lines with a multifaceted approach. But to begin to put something like this together, I think really requires a good strategy for funding this and putting that strategy together.
Yep, I agree. All right.
Can you hear us? All right. We just heard something in the background. We were wondering.
Ask her to put herself on mute until she wants to talk, because there's a lot of background stuff.
The chair lady was wondering if you could put yourself on mute.
Chair
So with the background music.
I don't know when she wants to talk. If she's on mute.
Well, she can unmute herself.
On her end.
Yeah, not us.
I was thinking.
Thanks. It might interfere with people.
We lost her again.
Oh gosh. Technology.
All right. Well, I'm gonna move on here because otherwise we'll never get to read.
No, but I think there's a lot of potential. Olga could be a good resource for you in Osseo.
Yeah.
Her farm to table stuff. She's
Yep.
on public television.
Yep.
She's our person.
Yeah. All right, so moving on to tourism, if there's no other questions on the economic development side. So, and again, these are in no particular order, but, really for 2023, I want to work closely with Reed to increase promotion and utilization of Petrick Park. And I think one of the ways that we do that is to, help facilitate that creation of Friends of Petrick Park. Including development of bylaws, board recruitment, getting the 501c3 certification done. And actually, I should reword this to say, work with park director to increase promotion, utilization, and support for Petrick Park, because that's where the Friends group really comes in. But a Friends group can help with promotion as well. So I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Second bullet, working with park director to implement elements of the Trempealeau County Outdoor Recreation Plan. So I think we want to look for some potential grant opportunities to develop some necessary infrastructure, whether it's, trailheads for hiking and stuff, canoe and kayak launches, new trail development. We want to pick up and continue and expand and implement the Water Trails Initiative that, our intern, developed over the last couple of years. I think that's really exciting, that we could, start to market like, hey, you know what, you want some good kayaking experiences or canoeing experiences, come to Trempealeau County, here's places you can put in, here's places you can, take out. And then, it really flows into this third bullet about exploring public-private partnerships to provide support services related to outdoor recreation activities. So, so that might be transport for these canoers or kayakers, so that, like, hey, you know what, I want to put in at Whitehall, and I want to take out, down at Petrick Park, and you can arrange, somebody to come and get you and take you to wherever, when you're done.
I think, Reed, you were here. It was a previous tourism person, like 4 people back before you. we had talked about doing a really fun thing where there was biking, running, and kayaking, kind of like a triathlon.
Yeah, that was the Trempealeau Traverse.
Yeah, and that would, I
Yeah.
think that would be something to just not,
Yeah,
to
no,
bring off the shelf
I
and
would,
look at
I would
again.
love to do that. Yeah, it was a triathlon type thing,
Yeah.
and honestly, yeah, that one's not for, that's.
Good.
That could put us on the map too, to do some kind of a sporting event like that.
I mean, there was a brochure, there was a, you know, a
Yeah.
brochure and ad, I
Yeah.
mean, let's try to bring.
That was the first guy that had the
Yeah.
job. Yeah, I've got the notes on that.
Okay, good, all right.
That's also.
I was looking
that's
forward
also
to
where
that.
That's also where I came up with the idea to, do Traverse Trempealeau County.
Right,
Yeah.
because those are the three big things around here.
Yep.
You know, canoeing, biking, and running, or,
Yep. Dawn, did you have a question?
Well, I just was noting, I was doing some research yesterday, and was looking on the web pages, and I see that there is a Trempealeau County Outdoor Recreation Plan for 2022 through 26.
Yep.
Yep.
Is it, and this is pieces of that plan that you're pulling out to implement this year? Is that where this
Yeah,
is?
well, so the main bullet is work with Reed to implement elements of the Trempealeau County Outdoor Rec Plan. That's the one you're looking
Right.
at. But, specifically, some of these things, that are in there, I think require some additional support, developing some infrastructure.
I will comment, I don't know if this matters or not, but I do see that because this was done in '22, the document does have employees who aren't here anymore listed in it. Is there opportunity to update? Is this a fluent document that should be continually updated, or?
Well, I think that, like any time you develop a comprehensive plan or whatever, it's to cover a certain date. And,
Right.
yeah,
A lot of work went into that plan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very nice, very
Yeah,
comprehensive.
to answer, it's not something we would update on nor do I think we have a need to update on a annual basis. I think, that to be a 4 or 5 year guide
Sure.
is sufficient.
Okay, thank you.
And one of the main reasons for making sure that plan gets done every year is that's how townships and villages access grants through the
Right.
state. And we have to have a outdoor plan in place.
Yep. So next one is develop an advertiser-supported Trempealeau County Visitors Guide. This is someplace that I think we need to get. Again, it's going to be a question of, how quickly can we launch this? How do we do it? It's not something we're going to produce in-house. We'd need outside support. But I think right now we've got a brochure, and it's, about 4 or 5 years, well, it's about 4 years old probably. I think it's, for the most part, it's current, but it's really not what people are looking for these days. They're looking for more of a small format or a full format visitor's guide that's got, some maps and highlights and pictures of things to do. But, it's also advertiser supported, so you can produce those things annually and keep those things up to date. If you don't have an advertiser supported publication, what you get down to is we foot the bill and then you have to order enough that you get a good price, but you're stuck with it for a few years. So we've been using the same brochure for 4 years. Somebody who isn't here anymore ordered way more, and I don't know who it was either, so I'm not pointing fingers, but ordered way more than we ended up using. We've still got 8,000 brochures.
They want to get their money's worth with public now.
They were supposed to be taken out and put at,
We had,
rest areas.
when I started,
and
we had about,
all over the
when I
place.
started in March, we had about 14,000.
Okay, so you've done a good job.
So
dispensing.
I carried cases of them in my car, and when I stopped at places, I put them in brochure racks, whether we were authorized to do so or not. I didn't really ask.
No, I put some on rest areas. I had a box of them too. and
Yeah, well, in the rest
On
areas,
trips between here and Madison.
yeah,
just
the rest
stick them
areas are
in.
kind of, the rest areas are kind of funny because there's actually contractual obligations, and, you have to,
But nobody's ever there to look at you and say, you
Yeah.
can't put them there. because
So
they're no longer
I've been saying,
manned.
but we're trying, I want to get to this visitor's guide thing, and again, this is going to be one of those things. I think we can launch this as late as maybe May or June of this year, and it would still be relevant, because it can be an annual guide. Nothing says it has to come out January 1. I think a lot of the guides do come out first quarter, but they're good for a year. So this is just going to be working to develop, maybe finding, somebody that can help with publishing and design. And then, I draft a letter, or I draft a letter with the PTED chair that says, hey, you know what, we're launching our new visitors guide. We send this to businesses, along with, advertising opportunities. And then, that they work with the producer of the thing. Yeah, I haven't fleshed it out yet. This is the first time. It's going to take some groundwork to get it going. The next one, though, is I think something we can do, in fairly quick order here, and I think it's probably long overdue, and that's to hold a countywide tourism summit to gather input into Trempealeau County destination marketing efforts. So it's really a pretty, I would envision this would be a pretty wide ranging constituency. So it would be hotels, restaurants, taverns, attractions, chamber people from throughout the county, where we have, a one-day event or a half-day event, whatever, and we bring people in and we really do some brainstorming and try to build some consensus building on what is that, our strong points right now, what are some opportunities, and for us to do different things that would enhance Trempealeau County as a destination for visitors. And it's to identify potential new events and perhaps to seek some state funding to assist with implementation, because Travel Wisconsin Department of Tourism does have some grant funds. Joint effort marketing, or GEM grants as they refer to them, are one opportunity, for some new events and different initiatives. But I think that we would have a stronger chance at getting some of that kind of money for either the county or individual communities if we had, sort of a plan that we could develop out of a meeting like this.
Has Ann Sayers been, is she the secretary, or is she still acting secretary?
Yeah, she's
tourism?
secretary designee.
Okay.
Yeah, which is essentially like being secretary.
Like 11 months in that.
It's
Okay.
no.
Because she has said she would love to come to Trempealeau County sometime and hang out.
Always welcome, and I've communicated that to Julianne Fox, who's our regional tourism rep too, so she knows that.
Both could come. Some fun.
All right, so we're almost at the end. So, and these are kind of getting down into some of these, or this is getting down into some of these I really like to do it things. It's not maybe as high a priority as some other things, but I do want to launch a new program on WTCO that would be called Traverse Trempealeau County, kind of in keeping with the new tourism slogan, that would provide information on local events and attractions to not only an internal Trempealeau County audience, people who live here, but also an external audience. And I think the way we'd do this is, to do probably what would start as a 30-minute quarterly show, could be an hour show, I'm not quite sure, and then use some of that footage, some of the things that we cover in those longer shows to develop some 2 to 3 minute videos that we could put out on our social media channels. Yeah, and this is something I would absolutely love to do, because for those of you who don't know, my first career was in broadcast journalism. I was a TV reporter at Channel 13, radio news director. I did some newspaper writing for the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. And so, media was my first career, and I still have, not fantasies, but I still have thoughts about, working in TV someday, maybe after I retire.
Semi-retired,
Yeah, do a story, do some occasional stories. Anyways, this is something that we can do right now that would be job-related, that I think would be a lot of fun and could really be helpful. And then the last thing is really to work to enhance what we call earned media opportunities through greater outreach by using media releases, personal contact with media outlets, et cetera. So what this earned media means is you earn it. You do something as opposed to paid advertising, paid media. So earned media is exactly how it sounds. You earn that media mention by working with a news director, getting a news release out there, or going on the radio when you're not paying for it, like we do, because we do pay for our 30 minutes a month on WHTL. But if they were to call up and say, "Hey Dave, can you tell us about," or they sometimes do that, like they might call Reed, because you don't pay when you go on.
The snowmobile club's paid.
Okay.
But it's
Well, so anyways, what we want to do is do some more media releases and outreach to news directors and media, and not just in this area, but maybe try to establish some relationships with Milwaukee media or Madison or Twin Cities, where if they got a little bit of they got a day that they don't have anything to talk about, like, hey, let's call up Dave or let's call up Reed and talk about what's going on in Trempealeau County. So.
Sounds like fun.
And other than that, I don't think I have anything going on in 23.
Fasten your
Started
seatbelt.
Ice fishing contest season this weekend.
Oh, that's right.
Blair starts their
Yeah.
thing, and this tourism committee is part of that
Yep.
ice fishing.
Oh, yeah.
That was a big deal when we had the grand champion from all the
Yep.
fishing
The
contests.
WHTL Trempealeau County Ice Fishing Circuit. Any questions?
No, good job. You're going to be busy.
I hope so.
Fun stuff.
And now it's back to Reed.
Oh, I lost you, Reed, here.
Okay, for my position, the work plan for 2023. A couple of these we've touched on already today. Obviously, moving the electrical pedestals from 3 Lakes lots, get them in at Petrie Park. We had discussed that earlier, planning on doing that here as soon as as soon as the ground thaws out in the springtime. Also planning on maybe finishing the ceiling in the kitchen of the class shelter. This is something I feel like maybe we could work on in-house, but maybe not. We'll kind of, we'll see what the new hires in the spring if it's something that we can add into their scheduling and an agenda to do throughout the year. It looks unfinished, and that ceiling in there, and it's been something kind of been looking at over the last couple of years. So I'd like to get that completed if possible. Also touched on the snowmobile bridges and new miles grants. I'll be starting to work on those here over the next couple of months with a due date of April 15th. Install the new interpretive signage at the trail system and campground, and then design the main entrance sign. I've been talking with Mike quite a bit about maybe a new something coming down 93 that people can really see and catch their eye, so they can pull in there. There's a few highway signs out there, which obviously you see it, but I know I've blown right past it a few times, when I first moved to the area and whatnot. So we'd like to get something that would just catch our eye or catch people's eyes, so they're like, well, Petrie Park, and this is what I hear about on the radio and whatnot, and come in just to check it out. So
Yeah, I think even putting in the sign a little bit of detail or a little bit of what's offered in the park.
Right.
Hiking trails, camping, a few of the smaller things to highlight on that sign, just to be able to draw people in.
For sure.
Would be good too.
Mm-hmm.
And this was one of the items addressed in the master plan, is better
Correct.
marketing for the park, including an entrance sign. And one of those challenges is the setback. You have the right-of-way of a highway, and then you have the right-of-way for the railroad tracks, and then the park, so makes it a little bit more challenging.
Any other questions on the signs? Okay. Moving on down the line, this is kind of something we're kind of doing as a department as a whole, is just, trying to become more efficient and, less use of moving away from paper. So I will be working on getting the entire snowmobile system or snowmobile program electronic. I know, I saw that. I was hoping nobody would see that before I moved on to the next one.
Moving away from what?
This missing is a typo there on the end of paper.
Dwayne was just home, that's right.
Yeah,
That's your start of not using ink, right?
that's correct. Yep. So another thing that, you know, I've managed the park now for 4 years, and certain things come up at the park. After, you know, looking at especially some of the things that happened this past year, trying to come up with a procedure for issuing citations at the park, working with, you know, the sheriff's department, corp counsel. The position I'm in does have the authority to issue citations. It's just we have to come up with a protocol of, you know, there's so wide array of what people can or can't do out there as far as, you know, level of, you know, yeah, it's just, okay, you know, there's so many different things. So I'm going to be working on, you know, okay, what should I do in this situation? What should I do in that situation? And then, or if something arises, maybe, you know, discuss it with the sheriff's department and say, what would you recommend here? So
It's been better this year, hasn't it, than past years? Some of the damage and vandalism at the park and thefts at the park.
correct. Some areas it's been better. A couple other areas it was
The
kind of
same?
new things that we've seen. Yeah.
Oh, new things.
Reed, do you keep a list of people who come in and camp and they just kind of are trash, you know, they trash the place, and that you won't rent to them again? Do you have any kind of a list, that no rent list? You know, so if they came up and just wrecked the place, you know, why would you want them back?
Right. Well, we haven't really had that much of an issue with that when it regards to camping, but with the cloth shelter use, definitely.
That's been bad.
That has been bad, and just, you know, and just some of the changes in the policy has actually taken care of that problem. Just closing it down at 8 p.m., whereas it used to be 10 p.m. It used to be quiet by 10, out by midnight, while generally events that are going later into the evening tend to get more wild as the evening progresses. So
More alcohol is
Yeah.
consumed.
So just
and
by
then they
having-
leave the mess and never come back.
that's right. So just by having it closed off at 8 has prevented those types of events from even renting the shelter. It has lowered our usage a little bit, but at the same time,
The city
cleanup
did the
is-
same thing in Arcady. They did something similar to what you guys did, and it cut it way down.
There you
Because
go.
our city was having the same thing where people would trash the thing. It's getting it all over.
Right.
Alcohol and yeah.
Yeah. So that's worked for that, but and usually in the past we would just not issue the refund, but there was usually maybe more damage than that. You know, now if they want to, you know, use the shelter or reserve campsites, it's all done on the camp spot now. So we have a credit card on file. So, and it's written in there like, okay, you know, you'll be liable for damages and whatnot. So it's not an issue of getting money from them or tracking them down or sending things in the mail. It's nice to have that option right there. But as far as like, I'm kind of maybe referring to a situation, maybe somebody comes in and they're there. I've seen this fairly, I shouldn't say common, but it happens occasionally. People come in and they haven't paid, and they're there for work, and so I'm trying to find them the parks managers or the parks caretakers. They're waiting for them in the evenings. They don't come back, but they're there, and all of a sudden there's a vehicle there one day, but there's no person there. You knock on the door, you can't just go inside. It's situations like that where the issue needs to be addressed. So planning on working on coming up with ideas for that going forward.
Are trailers licensed?
Yes, they are.
They should have a sticker on it, right, and a number, so you
Mhm.
can go back on that and just say, hey, this is your camper.
And the ones that I've done that for and brought to the sheriff's department have either been by different owners or haven't been registered in years. So, yeah. Yeah, so it's every situation has been different out there.
Put a lock on a hitch.
There you go. Yeah.
Put a lock on a hitch.
Yep.
Yeah,
Now you're talking.
that's a good idea.
Good idea, yeah.
But we'd have to check with corp counsel to see if that's illegal or not. I don't know.
Well, yeah, if they put those locks on tires if you are parked someplace you're not supposed to be.
No different than a storage shed.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. We'll work with you on that.
Yeah.
I don't know if the full board would, but I think this committee would back you.
Yep. Excuse me. So definitely something I'm going to be looking into in 23. Moving on, I do have the annual Parks Conference, which last year was very valuable. Attending that. That's coming up here in about a month.
Where's that at?
That's in the Dells this year. There's so many great people to meet and talk to. It's just a large gathering of people that are managing municipal and county parks, and a lot of consulting firms there and for projects, and it's a good group of people to go there and just meet and talk to and get ideas from. We did touch on the handicap access to the Kloss shelter. Going to be working on that this year as well. Planning on, after a few incidents that happened again this past fall, I'm planning on improving the surveillance at the park. Maybe a few more cameras. Right now we have currently 4 cameras watching the Kloss shelter and 1 out the back, and we're gonna install 1 in the front just to see every person that's coming and going. Just so we know. We don't like monitor it all the time and watch it, but if something goes down or a complaint comes in, we can at least rewind back to that time and see. Maybe we can catch something.
Yeah.
So develop and implement an evaluation survey, help give an idea how we can improve the park. This is something that we tried it last year at Actually for the Arts. I had 1 person return it by the end of the weekend. It was just a paper copy we handed out. Want to figure out a better way to get people to participate in that rather than just standing there waiting for them to, hey, stop doing what you're doing and fill this out for me real quick.
Is where we're going through for reservations, is that something that they could email out afterwards, a survey or such?
That's what I'm planning on, going that route, the electronic route, so people can hopefully.
Text surveys seem to be very well responded to. I don't know if that's an option, but in the development of surveys through healthcare, traditionally very poorly responded to as well, but the text method seems to be most successful.
Right.
Do you have a lot of repeat business, don't you, for the Ashley reservations? It's the same people coming back?
Mostly same people.
Because sometimes if you are at a website, they'll say, take 5 minutes or a few minutes and complete this survey. It could be just part of our reservation stuff.
Right.
But it's not just the campers that, we want feedback from. It's people who use the class and the hiking and.
You bet. And hopefully with the, the implementation of the rec pond, we get a lot more day use.
Right.
It'd be nice to, find out what we could improve on, what is good.
When you sent out, when we sent out the survey, I think Buzz, wasn't the outdoor, when we were doing the outdoor plan, we sent a survey out and we got some good feedback from that. I mean, we didn't get thousands of responses, but we got more than I thought we would.
A lot of responses, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
So-
good, I think.
It was a county-wide, it wasn't hard to do. And I was surprised at how many people actually responded. It was good. So we can help you with that. You don't need to do it alone.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you. And you know what? As we're getting to the end here, I believe I missed one up top there. I was like, why in the world did I not talk about that?
What
The
was
one that's
it?
going to take the majority of my time. Design fund, plan construction for the rec pond. Did we go through all that?
Well, we kind of talked about that before
Okay.
we came to
We touched on it before. Okay. So that right now we're in the early stages, but obviously as that gets rolling, that's going
Right.
to be quite a time commitment to do that, implement that plan.
Yeah,
So
because Dawn, also known as Barb, asked a lot of questions about that. So you
Yeah, okay.
really got into it.
And then from there, just normal park operations, normal conservation work. So, probably a good third of my position is doing conservation projects as well, and anything on the conservation side of the department, working with other staff, whether it be for wave testing or, nutrient management
Right.
practices, all that type of stuff. So
When do you normally advertise for help?
typically in March. February, well, I take it back. Usually the interviews are in March, so probably throw the advertisement out mid to late February. So we'll be doing
And
that
just
too.
remember, we only have one person working in HR now, so it might be March when that happens.
Tell me more about what you're advertising for assistants.
We have 2 seasonal park staff.
Okay.
Are the
and
2 marks gonna come back?
To my knowledge, yes, but I don't know for sure.
What are the limits or qualifications or what have you for that? I mean, what I'm getting at is, are high school kids, for example, an option for them for employment? Or are we looking at 18 and older for liability reasons and all of those pieces?
It would be 18 and older.
It's a
However,
lot of responsibility for a high school kid.
it is.
Yeah.
We're looking for anybody that can meet the qualifications, more or less. I mean,
But
we've
it's
had-
from March to,
It's, one of them is an 8-month and one of them is 10-month.
So it really starts in end of April, beginning of May, goes into November.
Right.
And that there's 2 positions. One is parks manager, and the other one's custodian.
Custodian, parks custodian, correct.
Yeah. And so there's a combination of the custodians. They both mow lawn, but then the custodians taking care of the bathroom stuff. And then there's all the outdoor work, maintenance, tree cutting, wood cutting,
Yeah, cleaning out fire pits
brush,
after
all that kind of stuff.
weekends and whatnot, so.
And we've had the 2 marks for a while. Both are retired. One's a retired police officer and
One's retired school
a
teacher.
teacher, yeah.
okay, interesting.
Yep.
One thing, and I know planning the 50th was a big deal and it took a lot of time, but I think it would be fun at the end of this park season to sort of just acknowledge all the volunteers and people that have really helped the park be successful through the year, well, forever, you know. I'd like to, I don't want to get into like the huge thing that we did for 50th, but there's so many people that give time, money, energy to the park, and just to acknowledge them, like just have a party at the park, potluck. I mean, it could be simple, but just to celebrate the people that really give of themselves to the park. Just keep that thought in your
Sure.
head,
Mhm.
along with all the other million thoughts.
Sounds good. Anybody have any questions on work plan going forward?
Job well done.
Thank you, Bob.
When, in Becky's position, because people probably know she's gone, will she still be involved? Will that position change?
The position is pretty similar to how it's been functioning.
Okay.
The job description has been updated. It was quite out of date, but the current job description reflects kind of how it was being handled over
Okay.
the last several years.
So that person will still have some connection with this group?
PTED, yes.
Okay.
Yes, and the position closes, the fiscal coordinator position closes January 9th.
Okay. Well, that's Monday.
I guess Mike or Jeannie, she
Yes?
gave Becky gave great service to this committee. Was there any recognition of that on her departure?
I told her how much I loved her and I was sad she left.
Well, I meant kind of an official letter or something with committee members signing it might be a nice touch. If Mike, you wanted to draft something up for next meeting.
Okay, I can do that,
I can do that if you want.
Okay.
Oh, no, well, you're her boss, so.
if you want to. I mean,
'Cause-
either or. I can do it. We'll work on it together.
Okay. And maybe ELU, because she was connected with them too, right?
Sure.
Okay, I gotta go back to the agenda because I'm on your world here. The budget. Oh, 3 Lakes. Is that you, Mike? Review of
Oh,
allowable use?
Yeah, I guess.
Oh, wait, we skipped, didn't we?
No, we're number 11.
Okay.
You should have a document in your folders, the zoning code permitted uses under Village of Trempealeau floodway.
PDF, yeah. It was very long.
So if you scroll down there, you can see, you'll see some of the,
Permitted uses.
yeah, agricultural uses, outdoor plant nurseries, horticulture, wild crop harvesting, parking areas, non-structural recreational uses such as golf courses, tennis courts, archery ranges, picnic grounds, boat ramps, swimming areas, parks, nature areas, fish hatcheries, shooting, trap, and skeet activities. I don't think the village would probably allow that under its, well, maybe, but I don't think they like weapons being discharged in the village, so, let's see, open uses, sand and gravel and other issues that comply with other parts of the code. Functionally water-dependent uses such as docks, piers, dams, culverts, navigational aids, stuff like that. So you can see that the items are, the permitted uses are very, very minimal. And you have to remember the 3 lake lots, there's a number of lots, and the acreage, remind me, Reed, was it from a half acre up to maybe 2 acres in size? And most of them are not adjacent to each other.
Well, that was my next question. Like, where are these actually located?
I'm going in there right now.
There's the map.
So I'm gonna get rid of this first.
Sometimes they're underwater. Bob, you had a question.
Since this is vacant land now, is this something to cut back on maintenance if we do this into a prairie region again, like Rita did at Petrick Park? Sow it in with wildflowers,
Is it?
and just mow accordingly.
We need to adhere to the village ordinance, which the maximum length of the grass is 8 inches.
God.
I guess maybe we could potentially ask for special permission to have potential prairie spots, but I think we would need to talk to the village and maybe get some kind of special permit on that. I think going forward, we certainly weren't going to mow as frequently as we have in the past, because essentially, and another thing we probably need to do is come up with some, and maybe part of the review some of our ordinance language for use of this property, so that if someone, maybe it's dusk to dawn use, just so we have and amend our code, Parks Code, to address that kind of, so we have some kind of enforcement ability down there. We still will need to check on the properties to make sure people aren't dumping stuff. I think that's been an issue in the past.
Yep.
So we will need to
Monitor.
use of the property.
With all these programs that go on now, I don't care if it's for monarch butterflies,
Well,
or for
that-
honeybees or something like
Exactly.
that. We could get into a program like that, which would be both beneficial for bugs and insects and birds versus, restore the soil, and wildflowers look nice.
It could be a mixture of prairie and marsh, because it's very wet down there on occasion.
When I wonder with all of the environment and land use types of things that we have going on, I just recently saw a post from them about there being a blue butterfly that's native to us that's going extinct or
Conner
something.
butterfly. Mhm.
Yeah, and I just feel like that, should we be bringing this, I would like to see the land used for some purpose other than just for us to spend money to maintain it at a mown level, and isn't there some way that we could use that land for the purposes of what Bob is saying for, insects and species and bees and, all of those types of things.
And hiking, it could be a new, day use for walking, which has become, pretty popular around here.
I think we moved away from looking at this.
As Mike mentioned, it is a village ordinance thing, so that would be something we have to clear up with them, but, like, here's one lot here. It's really odd shaped.
And people
What exactly are we here? Read.
Let's zoom out a little bit.
people do use this piece of property to get to the lake, lake access.
Let me go down here just so you get an idea. Everybody knows where Hungry.
So that's the Mississippi there.
Everybody know where Hungry Point is?
Yeah.
And that's Lake Road.
But see, Hungry Point's right here.
It's on the south side of Round Lake.
Yep.
It's where the old swamp bar used to be.
It's in Trempealeau, Wisconsin. You know.
Here's the main landing. And then you come down here, here's that campground. And so then you keep on coming. Actually, we do have a couple of lots up here by the campground too.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. I thought I saw that we have like 17 campsites or something in that area.
We have that many optional lots for rent, but parcels we have.
How many
One,
parcels
two.
do we have? Can you kind of highlight them somehow, Reed, so they show
Sure.
up? Looks like,
I don't know how to highlight a bunch of them at one time, but I can certainly, I know right where they are.
okay.
I know this zooms in. Okay, here's the campground right here. So we have, my mistake, that's not the campground. We have this one right here. Here's the campgrounds. We have this one.
Click on it, yeah.
And then we have one over on this side. Nope, not that one. This one here. And that's all we have closer to the restaurant, or Hungry Point there, which is right here. And then if you keep on going down Lake Road, the majority of them are down here. So if you take this left and go north here, that would be to get to the Three Lakes.
That takes you to Third Lake.
Correct.
What's the total acreage? I can't remember. 20.
I would have to add that up.
Yeah, it seems like it was 22 is in my head, but I
So
don't
here's
know.
another,
be a little
here's
higher.
another parcel here, so that's 3 parcels. And then we have this one here. It's 4. We have this one here, 5,
Yeah, I think it
and
was
then-
22 acres.
That one lot's pretty big.
6 here, and then 7 here.
That's 11.
So 7 parcels, Buzz.
Is he
And
still
only
there?
one of those parcels has the pedestals on it?
No, 5 of the 7 do.
Oh, okay. So it's quite spread out. I was just,
It
to
was.
get
I
a
have
feel.
I have 9 different pedestals. Well, I have 7 pedestals, but 2 of them are back to back.
okay. Okay.
So they'll work right in between a couple of campsites at Petrick for sure.
Yeah.
I guess I agree with Don and Bob too. If we could find some way to let some natural vegetation come in there to provide the values of these properties as a floodplain ecosystem, would be at least provide some environmental benefit and minimize our maintenance costs on them.
You have to get a variance off.
We'd have to get a variance, right?
Yeah, and then you have to have open hearing and have all the neighbors say it'd be okay to have all this. That's all right.
Well, they might not say it's okay.
They may not say it's okay because they don't want to know it's gonna attract
Because-
mosquitoes and you're gonna have rat.
Well, and
say, you know.
And some of the neighbors were kind of using it for their own purposes. And were kind of mad when we sort of took back control of it.
You let them have some control and we took it back, we yanked it away.
And they, most of the, I don't know who exactly was doing a lot of the maintenance down there, but it was, excuse me, it was mowed by other landowners down there.
So the only variance we would have to get is the height of the grass, because it says it can be used for nature preserves, that land. So,
I would assume that would be the only variance we'd need.
yep.
So would we be best served by bringing this land to Environment and Land Use and have them look at that to think about the needs and the opportunities that they would envision?
Thoughts on that, Mike?
I guess if we're looking at this as purely a conservation project, that probably would be a ELU thing. Ultimately, yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess we would just need a blessing from one of the committees to say, hey, move in this direction and get the appropriate approvals from the village.
I guess what I was thinking was that we've tossed around some ideas here that we I think in general agree that we'd like to see it used for some sort of value, conservationally or nature reasons and so forth. And I just wondered if someone at ELU would have better insight as to the current needs and what our county is what would that be most suited for example? And would it support some particular needs that the county or the state has?
You could have all the kids that work in conservation and do their special projects. That could be their special project.
And that's not a bad idea either, and that takes away any of the work
Get
from.
them more involved and be fun.
I think
Just these are just some thoughts,
Right,
and I
yeah.
think Dawn is right. ELU, because we're trying to figure out how to use this land.
right. I think ultimately, I mean, we don't need a ton of directions from a committee. Just a little say, hey, yeah, use it for conservation the best that you can.
Right.
But then it's up to the village to kind of give their blessing as well, because they have that 8-inch grass
For sure.
element. So, but that's something we can look into, and I know the village is sensitive to how the county's using these lots, so we want to make sure that we have our ducks in a row before we start going down a direction.
Right.
Definitely.
Is there a perception in the community that these lots can be used by the adjacent landowners, since that's the historic land use? Is that something we're trying to overcome here? What I'm trying to tease out of this conversation.
I missed the beginning of that.
Could you repeat what your question is, Buzz?
I mean, all along through the discussions we've had about these lots, it seems like they were being used by adjacent landowners. And then we went and put the pedestals in and tried to lease them, and then we're told we can't do that. But is there still this consensus within the community down there in Trempealeau that, oh, now these can go back to be used by the adjacent landowners? And that's got to be overcome, or it's going to be a continued battle down there, and doing some kind of natural restoration of the mowed areas might be a way to deal with that, be it through planting whatever plantings that could enhance their natural uses.
Yeah, that's I think no matter what we do, adjacent landowner uses is something we're going to be always dealing with.
Sooner or later, somebody's going to try and throw a structure on there, and it's going to have to come out. And it is going to require at least annual or biannual inspection by county staff to manage those impacts. But I like the ideas people are talking around about getting some kind of group that would maybe take over the restoration of these sites as a natural vegetation areas, natural floodplain vegetation.
I think I love this idea.
Madam Chair, this is Jean.
Yes, Jean?
Just so you all know, the National Highway Safety Committee opened up for grants to do things, and between the Wisconsin Great River Road, the the DNR, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, Friends of Pool 9, worked on a grant, and it got submitted as the #1 grant to go, and they are redoing at Long Lake and at First Lake, if the grant gets passed, that they are rebuilding the docks there. They will be really cool. They will be handicap accessible, like someone that has a kayak. There'll be an area that the kayak can go right in. The person can go in, and it would lower the person, and he or she could go out into the lakes. So we're waiting for confirmation of that, and maybe now with things changing in Washington, that will be looked at better, and we'll know. And also in regards to butterflies, we're working, we, meaning Wisconsin Great River Road, is working with the DNR in regards to that, and potentially there might be money on a different level other than the grant that they wrote for to help with that, if that is the way that can be moved forward. As Mike said, of course, unless the village says no. But anyway, I mean, those are two good things. It's just they got to get approved through a National Highway or a National Federal Highway Committee. So, that would be great for everyone.
I can't imagine that the city would, or the village wouldn't want that to be a useful place rather than just a trash heap like it had been in the past on occasion.
Is there a particular action that this committee needs to take to move forward with investigating this further? Okay.
We had a great deal going when it was camping. And then boom.
Is this something that you can email me in a link? I just want to look at it a little bit closer, and I don't know what map you're looking at.
This is actually on the Trempealeau County website.
Is it?
Yep, the GIS mapping.
Oh, okay, I can look at that.
It's right on the, so if you just go to the home page here, it's usually one of these that's scrolling through here. There it is, property map search. And that'll just come right up.
We have a good website.
And then just online mapping.
Is there any more to this? Okay. Back to my
You're welcome.
agenda.
Well, I guess the only question, building on Don's comment, would be, could staff come up with a recommendation on how to pursue with the management of these properties and present it to the committee? And then we kind of be done with it, get something down on paper and move on.
I think, Buzz, we've kind of talked about moving this whole issue to land use and out of this committee.
Well, if that's where we're going, then that's fine, but kind of get that done and then it's gone away.
I have a feeling it's never going to go away.
Well, if it's, at least we shift it out of this committee's responsibility then.
Right, yeah, because it's not a campground, it's not parks related. It's more land use and conservation.
Does that go to the county's property committee then?
No, it goes to Environment and Land Use Committee. ELU.
Especially now, Madam Chair, that we don't have camping in there anymore, it should be more like that.
Did you have something further, Buzz?
Nope.
Okay.
If people just turn their mics on, it would be helpful when they're speaking. I couldn't catch Kevin or Bob very often.
Okay. If there's no further discussion on agenda item 11, we're moving to 12, future agenda items discussion. Anybody have anything they want for February?
Could we go over? I'm sorry, I had to turn my mic on. Could we bring up the overview of Petrick Park and the big plan? I know I can look at it, but I'd like to know what pieces of that has been implemented, and I don't know where to find that, and I just think it would be good to look at that together. Is that an option?
Would you like me to pull it up right now?
No, I'm sorry, no, I'm running out of time.
Okay.
But is that an option, or is that something anyone else has interest in, or?
Do we still have the big boards? Oh, no, those belong to the people who we worked with from
Right.
Madison.
If that's not an interest of the group, I can go independently and just look at things with the team, too.
I think it would be good to kind of look that over quick.
Sure,
Wouldn't
we
hurt.
can do
It's
that
been a
next
while.
time. We can review the master plan, yeah.
Which is a fluid plan that
Sure.
could change at any moment. so. Any other agenda item discussion? Okay, our next meeting date is sometime in February.
February 7th?
My last day of being 70. Okay. I was just gonna throw this out as an idea of meeting later in the winter. In case the weather was crap, we would have a little more time to get here. Or does that interfere with other people?
Well, for me, I can,
I was just
either
thinking a
early
half
morning
hour.
or later in the afternoon,
I
like
was
the
just
end of
thinking,
business
like, if we
hours.
came at 9 in the winter instead of 8:30.
Even a half hour makes a difference.
Right. Is that a problem for anybody?
Would it be a problem for anyone to meet, say, at 3 in the like in the afternoon, or does that get too much in the middle of the day and interrupt?
Especially with some of us that still work, that might be harder for some of us. They're not retired yet or whatever.
I like
I like 8:30.
Okay.
8:30 or
I got my new tires on my car. Okay. All right. No, I like coming at 8:30. It was just today, it was like sketchy on my back road, so. When I was out there, I thought I made a big mistake telling you I was coming. But as soon as I got to 93, I was home free.
The main roads are okay, it's the back road though.
And that's my whole way here is back roads. All right, the meeting is adjourned. I don't think we need one. We adjourned at 10:50, 10:49.